All right. Thank you so much, Jed. Hello, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to attend our webinar today. I am Jomar Havelianos from IM team. Um, the primary purpose of this webinar is to share our thoughts and experiences on identity and access management and how it can help your business overcome, you know, challenges on privileged access management and help your business become more efficient, compliant, and secure. We run different webinar sessions every other week and present relevant topics about identity and access management. This webinar is brought to you by IAM team. So IAM team is a team of identity and access management professionals, and we're here to help businesses realize the benefits of IAM. We provide advisory, deployment, and managed services offering solutions around identity governance, access management, and privilege management. So today, our focus is privilege access management. So we'll talk about the business challenges around privilege access. What do we, recommend to solve the challenges? We'll also give you a short demo of a tool that you can use to manage privileged passwords and a Q&A portion at the end of the session. So let me start with the reality on privileged access with organizations. Most, if not all, of your business information are being processed within your IT environment, right? Now, this environment is what we refer here as your kingdom of information. Those who have the power to, manage your information are your administrators or super users, thereby making them the bearer of crowns. Now, managing your IT environment and running it on a day-to-day basis requires the use of privileged credentials, which have elevated or special permissions than a regular user account. Now, in the context of this presentation, the privileged credentials or privileged IDs are referred here as the crown jewels because these are more valuable and precious compared to a regular user account or ID. Anyone who uses it gives them the power to rule your kingdom of information. In an ideal situation, there should only be few crowns in your kingdom, but in reality, because of the complexity and diversity of your IT environment, the number of privileged credentials grow, sometimes to an uncontrolled level. And most of the time, there are even generic privileged credentials that are shared with multiple individuals. Now, one of the major challenges for most organizations is the ability to control these privileged IDs. It is very difficult to manage, especially if these credentials are shared with multiple individuals, thereby making your organization prone to insider attacks, data leakage, without you knowing who did it. Other challenges include the lack of accountability for shared privilege accounts, since you wouldn't know who used it at any given time. So these accounts are also very powerful, right? This could bring down your entire system or cause security breaches when compromised. And there is also that growing challenge, as it may cause audit and compliance issues when not properly managed. Now, the good news is all these pain points can be addressed by deploying a sound privileged access management solution. Borrowing a slide from our previous session, just to give you an idea about the cause of data breach. In one study from the Ponemon Institute, the cause of data breach can be attributed to any of the three root causes: human error, system glitch, and hackers and insiders. Hackers and insiders is by far the worst of the three from that study, and with an average cost of $4.77 million US. This cost includes technical corrective actions, press releases, cost to regain customer trust, and company image. Also, from another survey last year, the bitter truth is that even with the high visibility of the problem, some companies are doing nothing to address the risks. And one of the reasons why the risks are ignored is because they are used to the old practices that they are convenient to them. With last year's survey by Sans Institute, this chart shows the different types of data breaches experienced by the participating organizations. So, can you take a guess as to what is the common types of data breach? The most common types of data breach based from this survey are user login IDs and passwords and privileged credentials. Now, to give you an idea of that the threat is real, on industry news just released this month by Info Security magazine, a secret German government network was attacked using compromised privileged accounts. And the speculation was that the bad actors had access to the network for more than a year without being detected. On another news, the US Marines have confirmed that 21,000 details exposed in data breach using privileged accounts again. Now, one of the actions that they will be doing to correct this is to perform regular threat assessment, which include examining the level of admin privileges to individuals to avoid data leaks occurring again. So, how can we avoid these breaches? How can we ease the pains, per se, or business challenges related to privileged access management? It is very important to have these three elements: technology, process, and governance. These three must work together to have an effective management system for privileged access, which in turn will give you the controls that you need for your business. Samples of sound process and governance practices include, creating policies and standards for privileged access so that your organization is mandated to implement privileged access controls. The third element is also very important. You have to deploy the right technology. So the technology must be able to support basic access request and approval processes. So you can start by just managing the release of passwords for privileged accounts. The tool must have a common user interface that is user-friendly enough for the different actors in your organization. This way, you can also involve the business to, approve any request to use privileged access, and at the same time, give your reviewers and auditors a way to review or audit who used the privileged credential, which system was it used, when was it used, and who approved it. All of which should be provided through a comprehensive reporting and logging capabilities. Now, you should also be able to set up the roles of the users for this tool, like setting up the requester, who would be the approvers, which group of systems can the requesters are able to access, who the reviewers are. And you should also be able to specify permissions and policies so that requesters are only able to use the privileged accounts that they are authorized to, and at the same time access the systems which they are permitted to access. The tool must be flexible enough to manage systems where the privileged accounts are commonly stored, like Active Directory or LDAP, server operating systems like Windows, AX, Unix, Linux, or even RACF mainframe, network devices, even applications, or those applications hosted in the cloud. Now, to show these functionalities, I'll give the floor to Mario, who will provide us a simple demo of a privileged access management tool. So take it away, Mario.
Thank you, Jomar. So in this demonstration, we will be using One Identity Safeguard as our privileged access management tool. And then there will be three actors, the privileged user, the approver, and the reviewer or auditor. The assets would include an Active Directory, a Windows server, and a Linux server. We will demonstrate four scenarios. One is the pre-approved request. One request which involves an approval workflow. A request, an emergency access request. And I'll show you the reporting capabilities of Safeguard. So in our first scenario, a user will be requesting for the password of a privileged ID, which he needs for day-to-day operations. The request here is pre-approved, so he can immediately check out the credential without any approvals. So let me show you how it works. So I'll log in as a user. And as a user, this is the user interface that I'm going to see. So the only action that I can do here is create a request. So let me do that. And then I can choose these are the assets that I have access to. So I'll choose Microsoft Active Directory. I'll select an account. Click next. And here I can specify if I need the request immediately or on a scheduled date. So I'll leave the defaults. You can also change the duration. Then I'll provide a reason here and submit. So as you can see, since this ID is a pre-approved ID, I can immediately check it out without waiting for approval. So I'll go ahead and copy the password, launch an RDP session to the target system, and paste the password here. And I immediately get connected. So once I finish doing what I need to do, I can just close this RDP session and then check in the account. Now, when I check in the account, the PAM tool automatically resets the password. So even if I try to log back in using the password that I just copied earlier, it doesn't allow me to because the system already reset it in Active Directory. So the second scenario, a user will be requesting for a credential that requires an approval before he can check out the password. So a sample use case for this would be if there's any change request or there's a system upgrade that needs to be done, then this is probably approval workflow may be appropriate for this type of scenario. So let me show you another demonstration for that scenario. I'll log in as a different user. Okay, so I'll do another request and select a Linux system this time. And I'll select the SG_SVC account. I'll leave the defaults and then provide a reason. And we can see here that my request is pending approval. So I can't check out the password until this action has been completed by the approver. So I'll log in as the approver. And as an approver, I can see that I have an action pending on my end. And this is the request of Victor Bolden. So what I need to do is make a decision whether to approve or deny. So for this demo, let's approve the request. And once the request is approved, when I log back in as the requester, I should be able to check out the password. And as we can see, it shows it's available. So I'll copy the password, launch an SSH session, type in the user ID, and then paste the password here. And I'm logged in. So as soon as I'm done, I'll close the session and check the password back in. So again, even if I try to log back in using the password that I got earlier, the system won't allow me to because the password has been reset. Okay. So the next scenario is an emergency access request. So here, what you can do is, so what happens here is that it shows you an example of how you can bypass the approval workflow if you do an emergency request. So typical use case for this, if there's a severity 1 issue outside office hours and the parties involved cannot wait for the approver to approve the request. So the user can request for emergency access and the approver will get notified of that request. So let's go ahead and use the same user. Okay, select the target system. And this time I'll select the Firecall ID, which requires approval. Now here, I can select emergency access request, specify duration and provide the reason, and then submit it. So once I submit, it immediately becomes available without waiting for approval from the designated approver. So I'll copy the password, paste, launch the session. And I'm logged in. So as soon as I finish the work, I'll close this and then check in the password. So lastly, I'm going to show you that you can review the requests, view audit trails, and create reports from the UI console. This will help you comply with IT security process and provide artifacts in case of an audit. So to do that, let me log in first as a reviewer. And as a reviewer, since Jesse Garcia is the one that is designated to review the emergency request for the ID firecall01, then he needs to review this to complete the review process. So after reviewing the information here, he can click on review and complete the review. So let's say provide a comment here and then click review, and that should complete the review process for that particular request. And then if you're an auditor, you have the option of viewing artifacts or generating reports depending on the requirement. So I'll log in as an auditor. So as an auditor, I only have read-only access, so I can't make any changes on the system. So I'll go to Activity Center. Then I can choose what type of activity I'd like to look at. So in this case, let's take a look at the access request that was done earlier in the last 24 hours. So I'll click Run. And here we can see the transactions that was done during this demo. So here we see that Todd Lord requested for the account admin01 for the system oneidentity.demo. And this is the time when I checked out the password, and this is where I checked in the password. Similarly, for Victor Bolden, this is when he requested the account for SG_SVC. This is the approval given by Kevin Smith, and these are the details that was done by Victor, as well as the password change. So you can also add additional information here to your liking, and you have the option of exporting this report, saving the search, and scheduling a report to run monthly, so you don't have to do this every time. So that concludes the demo. These are just some of the examples that you can leverage a PAM solution to effectively manage shared credentials. So not only can it help your organization secure privileged accounts, but it also allows you to demonstrate traceability and accountability through activity and entitlement reports. So with that, I'll pass it back to Jad for the Q&A portion of the webinar.
Great. Thanks, Mario. Thanks, Jomer, for that awesome presentation. So we do have a few questions on board here. The first one we have is, can a maximum duration be set for each privileged account?
Okay, I'll take that. The answer is yes. This can be set in the access policy. So the access policy defines who has access to which account and what system. So here you also have the option of determining how long the user can check out the privileged account. So once the user reaches, so once the session reaches that point, then the system automatically checks the account back in.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mario. The next question we have here is, how does a user get authorized to use the admin IDs?
I can take that question. So authorizing a user to use admin IDs or privileged accounts that are managed in a privileged access management tool can be you can follow your regular change management process. Well, it will be like onboarding a new user to a certain application. So it could be as simple as making the user a member of an Active Directory group, and that Active Directory group can be the basis of the the PAM tool to permit the user to access the managed privilege IDs.
Great, thanks, Jomar. So in lieu of time, we have time for one more question, and this one is a good one. So can Safeguard be integrated with ServiceNow? And what are the options to integrate with the service request system?
Okay, let me answer that. Currently, Safeguard supports ServiceNow as well as Remedy. So both are ticketing systems. I think ServiceNow is a cloud-based ticketing system. So the configuration is not complex. It's actually pretty simple. All you need is a URL, and you would need the username and password that Safeguard can use to access the ticketing system. And you would also need either a client identifier or an authentication string, depending on the type of system that you're going to use. So, and you also need to make sure that the username has the permissions to manage the tickets within the ticketing system. So I hope that answers the question.
Great, thanks, Mario. So for all other questions, you can also email us at info@imteam.com. Again, that's info@imteam.com. Once you receive the recording, we'll be happy to take any follow-up questions. So I'll give this back to Jomar to conclude the presentation.
All right. Thank you, Jad, and thank you, Mario. With that, I would just like to leave everyone some final thoughts, by asking these questions. How do you currently manage your previous accounts? Do you share the same pain points that other organizations feel when it comes to managing their privileged access? Now, if your answer to this question is yes, or even a slight yes, then consider starting ways to simplify, streamline, and even automate the process to effectively manage your privilege IDs. There will be more webinar sessions like this in the future, so please visit our site and register to our webinars. Our next session is on March 21st. It will be about cloud and on-premise single sign-on solutions, so watch out for that. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for attending, and I hope that you have learned something that would help you in your organization today. So have a great day, everyone.